let's get on to Southern Africa. The government of Namibia is hosting international and local oil and gas companies, investors, and other industry professionals to a conference that looks to attract investments into the emerging hydrocarbon sector. Now let's grab a few soundbites from the opening formalities of the three-day event we kicked off today in Windhoek.
This year's second edition of the Namibia Oil and Gas Conference 2024 is aptly themed the next steps towards a prosperous oil and gas industry to power Namibia's sustainable future. This really requires us to be able to locate the meaning in certain keywords that have been used in that theme. The question is, can the oil and gas industry be prosperous if the nation is not prosperous? Most definitely it can. After all, we can safely assume that for most part, Namibia has had a prosperous mining industry. Has that equated to a prosperous nation? These are some of the difficult questions we need to ask ourselves. Therefore, maybe we should ask ourselves the question, what is a prosperous nation and what does a prosperous Namibia look like? According to our Human Development Index, Namibia is rated at 0.610, which puts us in the medium bracket. We rank 142 out of 193 countries. And it is quite a feat from 1990, from independence to where we are currently.
As NIPDB, we are excited to partner with the Economic Association of Namibia, the Halsidal Foundation, NAMCOR, SNC Incorporated, and then, of course, having the endorsement of our ministry. God has entrusted us with minerals. We talk about solar, wind, and other energy resources. And then, of course, we are now talking about oil and gas. Are we going to be good stewards? I understand there is 60% Namibians in the room, so this question belongs to all of us. And therefore, we need to make sure that we are good stewards. And how can we do that? Number one, yes, by building institutions, systems, and processes, by making sure that we identify the right partners, by making sure that we negotiate mutually beneficial contracts, by making sure that Namibians, who are the real owners of the resources, enjoy the full benefit. But of course, Namibians, you cannot enjoy these resources if you do not make sure that you seize the opportunities that are offered. The extent to which you will enjoy this benefit is determined by your own preparations. The government can prepare, the private sector can support, but each and every one of us have a responsibility. And then, of course, we want to make sure that future generations of Namibians are also able to enjoy the benefits of these resources. If and when these resources are exhausted, we don't want them to see, oh, apparently Namibia was, and apparently our forefathers enjoyed, but today we are in poverty. We want them to say, it was not apparent, we are feeling it, we are enjoying it, and we see the benefit. And that is why the government has started with the Sovereign Wealth Fund, where we understand that the seed that was grown has grown, that was sown has grown, and now the Sovereign Wealth Fund is about 400 million. And we have not yet started with the benefits that are coming from various resources.
Amid the turmoil of global geopolitics, Namibia continues to be a developing bright spot in the future of global energy supply. It is indeed an interesting time for our country. I believe this forum offers us all a unique opportunity to share ideas on how we can play our various roles in enabling our country to leverage its petroleum resources to attain socio-economic development while providing energy to the world. I have found the theme for this year's conference, the next step towards a prosperous oil and gas industry to power Namibia's sustainable future to be fitting as Namibia moves towards oil and gas development and production phases. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to use my keynote address today to highlight 3 issues that I consider to be relevant to the theme of this year. The first issue is that effective management of the Namibian oil and gas resources is a prerequisite to attain a prosperous oil and gas industry for all. The second issue is that international oil companies and oil service companies shall have to play a key role to ensure local prosperity. The third issue is that our national oil company, NAMCOR, must be a meaningful vehicle for state equity participation in petroleum licenses to ensure oil and gas prosperity for all Namibians. Ladies and gentlemen, on the first issue, good governance of our upstream petroleum sector is imperative to ensure that economic benefits related to the exploitation of Namibia's oil and gas resources are shared fairly and equitably. We are fully aware that the emerging petroleum industry will bring not only transformational opportunities, but also challenges. There are many examples around the world whereby oil and gas exploitation have negative socio-economic and political impacts. Therefore, we should not take the resource scarce lightly, and we must learn from others' experiences. Now, good governance of our petroleum sector requires all of us to play our respective roles. From the government perspective, it entails that we should have a clear national goals to ensure sustainable exploitation of our country's oil and gas resources. Like Norway, to ensure that our petroleum resources are exploited optimally and responsibly. The government have considered several oil and gas management principles, or oil commandments, as one might call them, to be ideal for our developing national petroleum policy. In this respect, we consider that effective stewardship of our oil and gas resources should be prioritized at all levels of petroleum activities in Namibia. The discovered oil and gas should be exploited in such a manner to make Namibia energy independent.